Okay, so good afternoon. Thank you for joining us at the Cutler Bay Complete Streets from Vision to Reality session. My name is Stephanie Garcia. I am the Complete Streets Manager at the Broward NPO. First of all, some general information. We have a question and answer session after the presentation. Please enter your questions into the chat box right over there. This session is closed caption enabled. Please click on the closed caption button in your Zoom toolbar and choose the option to show the live transcript. Additionally, for those who are visually impaired, the session is compatible with screen readers. It is my pleasure to walk you through this session and introduce you to the speakers. So I will start with Chris Benitez, Project Manager and Traffic and Safety Engineer at Stantec. He has more than 14 years of experience in transportation, infrastructure planning, project development and design for the Florida Department of Transportation and South Florida local governments, whether planning for urban downtowns, neighborhoods, or retrofitting corridors to be more walkable and bikeable. Chris uses a data-driven approach, context-sensitive and community-oriented approach to implementing complete street solutions. And we have also Sean Compel. He is a principal and project manager at Stantec, where he has worked for his entire 90 years career. He leads the community development group in the Coral Gables office with a focus on the design and construction of various infrastructure projects, primarily focused on municipalities, local municipalities. Meeting client goals while and helping to transform and improve communities has been his growing passion. Experiencing the positive changes and playing a role in the city he was born and raised. And last but not least, we have a representative from the town of Cutler Bay. Of course, we have Alfredo Quintero. He is the Public Works Director. He's held over 8 years. He holds a bachelor's and master's of science degree in civil engineering from Florida International University. He is a state certified general contractor, a state certified roofing contractor, and a certified flood plain manager, and an ESA certified arborist. What else, right? He has over 20 years of experience in the engineering and construction industry. In his role as Public Works Director, he has led his department through multiple capital improvement projects. So we have really good speakers today, and I hope you enjoy this session. I will turn it over to Alfredo.
So thank you very much, Stephanie, for introducing the most handsome guys in the summit so far. My name is Alfredo Quintero. I am the Public Works Director for the Town of Cutler Bay. And just to tell you a little bit about Cutler Bay, please go to the next slide. We are the youngest municipality in Miami-Dade County. We incorporated in 2005. We are approximately 10 square miles and have 45,000 residents. Out of those 45,000 residents, approximately 6,200 are 65 and older. And I am very proud to announce that we are the first municipality in Miami-Dade County, as well as the second municipality in the entire state of Florida, whose age-friendly action plan was approved by AARP and the World Health Organization, in part based on our actions and efforts to make our streets age-friendly. Please go to the next slide. So the town of Cutler Bay started designing complete street projects before we even knew the term complete streets. Our first signature project was the historic Old Cutler Road Roadway Improvement Project, which started out as a charrette. It was forged by the residents of Cutler Bay in the summer of 2002. And some of those same residents went on to become the first elected officials for the town of Cutler Bay. And basically in that charrette, the residents wanted to improve Old Cutler Road by improving safety, mobility, and capacity for the 4 modes of travel, which are pedestrian, bicycle, vehicular, and transit, regardless of a person's age or physical ability, while still maintaining Old Cutler Road's historic character. And this is basically the definition of a complete street project. So fast forward 10 years later, in 2012, and that charrette became a reality under a joint participation agreement between Miami-Dade County and the town of Cutler Bay. The improvements of Old Cutler Road commenced, and we teamed up with Stantec Consulting to perform the design. Kimley Horn and Associates was our full-time CEI, and the project was also awarded to Acosta Tractors for the construction and implementation of the project. A short 2 years later, Caribbean Boulevard, which is our second complete street signature project, also became a reality, and it happened to be with the exact same team. So next slide, please. So since incorporation, the town has developed and adopted many master plans funded by grants from the TPO, and mostly developed by one of our town consultants, the Corodino Group. And among the most notable are the bicycle and pedestrian master plan, our complete streets corridor analysis, and our transportation master plan, which has actually is under the process of undergoing its third update. So these master plans do not just sit in a shelf. They have helped us secure many funding and grants with Miami-Dade County through JPAs, FDOT and FDP, as well as Safe Routes to School. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank our new county mayor, Daniela Levin Cava, who was also our previous county commissioner in Cutler Bay. I want to thank her and all her staff. Without her, these projects wouldn't have been possible. They've always provided us much support, as well as all of the Miami-Dade County Public Works staff, Miami-Dade County TPO, our friends at FDOT, our friends at FDEP. And with that, just want to say one last thing. We are the youngest municipality in Miami-Dade County, but I think we do lead the charge in implementing complete streets projects in the Tri-County area. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Sean Compel.
Thank you, Alfredo, and thank you everybody for joining us today. We're excited to share our experiences and this a great partnership we've had with both Town of Cutler Bay, Miami-Dade County, and many other shareholders. To build on the slide you just saw about the vision and some of those plans, you know, those really are the building blocks for creating a project and creating a good project. And so, you know, part of what you see there is you end up bringing forth most of the needs, the priorities. So you'll see from the pictures on the side, you know, lack of sidewalks, lack of connectivity. There's even the picture there where the sidewalk ends at a utility pole. Cyclists in the street, no signage or striping to guide the cyclists. And I want to bring special attention to the photo in the top right where you see that the white wall and with the rock border. We'll see more of that photo later, and you'll see there how the footpath is clearly defining that, number one, people are using it and people want it. You know, so those studies were always very important to establishing the needs, and then they gain the public support and it gets their feedback. You know, you really want to hear from the user. You want to hear about what they see every day because they're the ones walking, biking, driving, and understanding what's happening in their community. So moving forward, those building blocks are also used to leverage the partnerships and obtain the funding because, of course, the project can only happen if it is funded. And so those studies show the commitment that the town has. It shows the county, it shows DOT, it shows all stakeholders that the town is serious. And, you know, we've really been able to gain momentum by completing projects year after year and continue to have support with those shareholders. So you have, it creates those safe, smart, resilient, creative spaces. The public engagement process, of course, is critical to that. The town has their own capital improvement plan, which they update regularly. But then it allows us with these master plans, it allows us to coordinate with the TPO, coordinate with Miami-Dade County, get the funding. In this case, the JPAs were funded by the PTP, People's Transportation Plan, and a couple other projects we'll mention briefly were LAP funded. Cutler Bay is a LAP certified municipality, and it also keeps them eligible for the Safe Routes to School funding. So successful implementation. What we'll look at today, Old Cutler and Caribbean, both completed, both joint participation agreements with the county, but also need to mention Gulfstream Road and Manta Drive. Those were both LAP funded through FDOT, smaller size, but still same concept, you know, continuous sidewalks, new drainage, really getting everything done at once so that it's done, it's safe for the user, and you really shouldn't have to go back there for a long time. The study mentioned earlier, the complete street corridor analysis, that was a great study by Corodino Group to be able to identify future projects. So Frangio Road that you'll see on the list there, was identified as the next important project for the town. It has been funded, so we are in design of that corridor now. It's actually bigger than both Old Cutler and Caribbean. And we had our first public information session in November of last year. So a very successful virtual meeting with the public, inform them of everything, got some good feedback about certain components to look at. And then moving forward, there's still also an analysis for Marlin and Southwest 87th Avenue as the next JPAs. And then lastly, Caribbean Boulevard. There's one last section of Caribbean that is funded in 2024 from FDOT. So that will be coming up later on. So we'll dive into Old Cutler Road, a complete street project. And so just to give a little information on it, the map you see here is the project limit. So on the southwest limit is 97th Avenue, and it extends about 1.25 miles up to Southwest 87th Avenue. So this is one of the main business corridors within Cutler Bay. So it's very important to the town, very important to the community. As Alfredo mentioned, it's historic, so we maintained it as a 2-lane road. There was no plans to make it any wider, as well as a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit. So it was born by the citizens of Cutler Bay. So before it was even a town, this was a hot topic and a priority for the residents. So they developed the charrette and presented and completed that in June 2002. Studied all those challenges, provided solutions, and really they got that as a county road. They got that adopted by the Board of County Commissioners in 2004. So it also shows the importance of early involvement of all stakeholders, even before the town of Cutler Bay was established. The vision and goals were set there also. Historical, very important, of course, safety, and really very forward thinking to be having a stress on pedestrians and bike orientation as opposed to just the vehicle. And so to successfully implement, just a few topics to touch on, the project goals you could see are in line with the goals set forth in that charrette. So we were very careful to make sure that those were established and those were always met throughout the design process. Of course, safety, improving traffic congestion with various measures, and pedestrian mobility, and all at the same time while beautifying the section of street. So the beautification took place in the way of colored concrete, decorative bus shelters, different components. Certainly one very important component, as we said, is public involvement, and that's not just in the planning stages, but also during design and through construction. So what we had success in this process where during design, we had several meetings, before the design was finalized. As part of the design process and the master planning, we had community meetings at town hall, got the word out, get people involved, let them ask questions, make sure that they understand how the frontage of their property might be changing. And then one thing the town of Cutler Bay is very dedicated to is a public information officer throughout construction. And it's a measure that they've taken in all their projects. It's very beneficial, especially on a project like Old Cutler. It's a busy corridor, a lot of businesses, local businesses especially. We were able to set up a project office within the project corridor that, could constantly handle questions, concerns. A lot of maintenance of traffic movements were changing so they could get regular updates. Regular updates were also regularly distributed to the public. So it really, really helped out with the process. And again, successful measures were the funding. So as we said, it was mostly funded by the county, 90%, and then 10% by the town of Cutler Bay, and close coordination with the county the whole way through, even through construction. So some of the project features, and you'll see the picture on the right is one of the new custom bus shelters with the street furniture. We had the pedestrian sidewalks, dedicated turn lanes, which weren't always a part of the old version of the road, continuous shared use path, traffic circles, which we'll look at a little bit more briefly in a little bit, all new decorative street lighting, colored crosswalks, continuous storm drainage, native landscaping, and even bus pullout bays that help to allow the buses to get out of traffic in certain areas where backups were very common, especially at points where a lot of users were getting on and off the bus. So here's a typical section of the roadway. In this case, we had 85 feet of right of way to work with, which was actually very nice. We don't always get, sometimes we're trying to cram too many things within a really wide space or a narrow space. This one worked out well. We got to make the 10-foot shared use path on the south side, and it connected further north as part of the overall trail, and then still allowed for a full 10-foot landscape swale on that same side. We did all new curb and gutters on both sides, medians in many areas, and then still had room for the 6-foot sidewalk on the north side. So it really allowed for a lot of features to be within that right of way. We talked a little bit about the roundabouts. So those were served kind of as bookends, because there was one at either end of the project, and it almost created a nice gateway and a great, of course, safety improvement, improves traffic flow, but really we took the opportunity to make it that gateway aesthetic improvement. We had the landscape architect hand select some trees in Central Florida that were trucked down and planted, and that gave it an instant effect that really made it look like this project had been there for some time. And then with the uplights and other important components, it really added a lot to the look of the project. We did have some minor right-of-way acquisition on each of these, and that was helpful that process was started early on so that it didn't impact the ability to construct when we needed to. So again, the historic character was important. It had to be maintained. It was designated as a state historic highway in May of 1974. So we had to obviously respect that. We kept all those design parameters in mind. We couldn't widen it. We weren't interested in changing the look and the feel of it, other than this just enhancing it really. The legislator amended that designation July 2007 to allow us to make these minor, what I would say minor improvements, in the sense that we're not going to change the complete look of it. So as part of that, we secured the historic marker you see on the right. We implemented 4 of those throughout the corridor and really added a nice effect to the whole town within that Old Cutler stretch. And so we all mentioned that as far as the architectural enhancements, we did incorporate the coral rock. You'll see that, which is natural limestone from the ground there within the bus shelters and some of the low walls as well. So we'll run through some of the photos. I'll try to do that rather quickly, but it gives a good perspective of the true transformation of this road. So this view, before we started, you can see the very unimproved swales. There's lack of sidewalk connectivity, not safe edge of pavement, so not safe for really anybody to be traveling along here. Similarly, on this stretch, you'll see that's the existing shared use path. It ends up kind of just blending in with the existing roadway, so there's no clear division. That's mixed in with a bus stop that's very close to the road, so a very messy configuration. Similarly here, believe it or not, that asphalt on the right, kind of on the right side of the roadway, that is the shared use path. So not very inviting, not very, helpful for the user to get on and want to bicycle through this facility. Furthermore, you have conditions like this where it wasn't curbed, so you could see the edge of pavement's been patched over the years, and you have people parking on a very useful path. So we wanted to resolve those issues as well. Here's a case where obviously they're using the path, but it still doesn't feel safe. It's not curbed. It's too close to the roadway. It doesn't meet clear zone requirements. And there's no sidewalk on the north side, so they're forced to use this portion on the south side. And then again, there is a path, but the crosswalks, you wouldn't feel safe crossing. It's not even striped in this section. And the edge of pavement, very undefined, not curbed. So we were able to look at all of those items. Now here you notice this is the white wall that we talked about. So the white wall off to your left, and you can see the footpath clearly in need of a sidewalk here. So what we'll do is we'll look at those same photos and just ask you to take a look at certain landmarks to see the transformation from what it was even by now 11 years ago to what it is more currently. So if you see the McDonald's sign and the utility poles, that's what it was. This is what it is now. And it's actually even more enhanced now that the landscaping is filled in, it's created shade opportunities and much more inviting for the user. Here's that other view looking towards Franjo Road. You'll see the utility poles to the right, and then you'll see what it looks like today. Very well defined. We used custom colored concrete for the sidewalks to also give it a certain brand. In this view, you'll see the red and white roof of the gas station off to the right, and then you're gonna see this one really captures the transformation quite a bit, is the crosswalks, the opportunity to plant in the swales and the coral rock wall. Here's that picture of them blocking the shared use path, and you'll see how improved that is with a median and the crosswalks and everything else. Again, here's actually to the left, you'll see a sign for the public shopping center. And then you'll see how improved that is. There's the same sign off to the left. Much safer, protected turn lane movement. Here again is the individual using the shared use path, but off to the right side to feel safer. And here's what we got today. Those same trees are all in line and you have a much improved condition. Again, here, a very, very undefined crosswalk. And now you see it's well-defined, curbed, much safer for people to use. And then again, another section here, though there is some sidewalk, there's no safe crosswalks. Well, here you have it. It gives us the opportunity to increase the plantings and make it enjoyable. There again is the wall and the footpath, and you'll see this one had the benefit of a bus shelter as well as the bus pull-off bay where the buses could safely pull off the edge of pavement and let cars continue on their way. So that was a very certainly transformational picture. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chris he'll tell you guys about Caribbean Boulevard.
All right, thanks, Sean. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to talk about how the Caribbean Boulevard Complete Streets project was successfully implemented and how it elevated the character of the community. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so you see the map in Cutler Bay and the project. There are similarities to the old Cutler Road Complete Streets project that Sean was just presenting. Biggest difference, I would say, is that the corridor is along a main street that is predominantly residential. The Caribbean Boulevard Complete Street project was focused on improving the safety and mobility for pedestrians and bicyclists, creating a true sense of community that encouraged people to get out of their homes, to walk around, bike around, connect with neighbors, and enhancing resiliency. Before getting into the details of the project, I'd like to tell you an interesting story of how it was implemented from a partnership and funding perspective. The project had 3 different segments. The first segment, which is the green segment on your screen, was implemented through a partnership with Miami-Dade County, where they provided about 90% of the funding for the project. And the town provided the remaining 10% with CE&I and additional enhancements such as landscaping. After the segment was completed, the town realized that they had leftover funds from the old Cutler Road project. So the town strategically engaged Miami-Dade County to reallocate those remaining funds to the next segment known as Gap 1, which is the blue segment on your screen. And then after Gap 1 was constructed, there was leftover funds from that project. And that was reallocated for the next segment, which is known as Gap number 2, which on the screen is the purple project. The town was proactive in getting this entire segment funded. They finished the construction on all of these segments by 2017. And they have secured funding for the final segment, which is the yellow segment on the screen. All right, folks, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so we're going to touch upon some of the key features that made this project a successful implementation. One is the town was a project champion, which goes without saying. Second thing is public engagement. That's critical for every project. You need to get the community support. This helped down the line when we were engaging the community during the design phase to educate them on the improvements, understand their concerns, and see if we can collaborate on any trade-offs. Third thing is funding. It's incredibly important. Without it, you have no project. We already talked about the funding for this particular project. The fourth thing that was a key to a successful implementation was the partnership. The partnership with Miami-Dade County was key. Caribbean Boulevard is a county road, and the county was incredibly supportive to making this project a reality. As Alfredo mentioned earlier. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Before we get into some of these design features, let's talk about the primary goals which helped to set the framework for the improvements of the Caribbean Boulevard project. One was improve pedestrian and bicyclist safety. Second thing, traffic calming and maintain a residential character of the road. Resiliency was another one, and beautification. On your screen, you're seeing a typical section that visualizes what improvements were implemented for the project to satisfy those goals. So it's about a 70 to 80 foot right-of-way, which gave us some flexibility with the design features, a little bit more narrow than Old Cutler. So we'll start from the center of the roadway and work our way out. So first are the travel lanes. They were narrowed to 11 feet, which helped to slow down vehicle speeds. Bicycle lanes were added to provide them with a safer facility. Curb and gutter was improved for safety, delineation of the roadway, and drainage. Resiliency was improved with a new continuous drainage system. Native landscaping was installed to improve the aesthetics of the community and beautify the neighborhood. And the project included new sidewalk connections and reconstructed sidewalks. There were several issues with the previous sidewalks. And then it's topped off with decorative lighting. All right, next slide, please. Here's an after picture of the roadway. Doesn't this invite you to step out of your house, just walk around, enjoy the town? I know this personally because I live in Cutler Bay, and I regularly take runs around the neighborhood, including Caribbean Boulevard. All right, so next slide, please. Before the Complete Streets project, Caribbean Boulevard was uncurbed. There were stormwater issues with flooding. The edge of pavement was worn out, causing roadway pavement issues. Some safety concerns with vehicles speeding and running off the road, and vehicles were parked all over the swale area. Curb and gutter was an important improvement for the corridor. But during the design phase, and even in construction, it was one of the challenges. The community was mostly supported, but there were some folks that did not like the improvement because they just liked how the roadway was before. So we engaged the community to educate them on the benefits and understand their concerns and provide any trade-offs. Curb and gutter provides stormwater channeling, so it minimizes flooding issues. It enhances pedestrian safety. At the roadway speed limit along Caribbean Boulevard, it was 30 miles per hour. So the curb and gutter actually helps to keep vehicles from running off the road. It provides a cleaner look. And you can keep more trees because they're allowed to be planted closer to the road. During construction, we continued working with the homeowners and made some trade-offs by helping to adjust driveway widths for them to continue using the swale area for parking. After the construction, the community loved it. So let's move on to the next slide. Everyone loves roundabouts. I mean, mostly everyone. Roundabouts slow vehicle speeds, which improves safety, and it allows for pedestrians to safely cross the street. One of the intersections where a roundabout was installed had a history of vehicular accidents, so the residents in the immediate area had a viable concern. They were very excited when a roundabout was a proposed solution. When designing roundabouts, you have to understand the roadway users to ensure you're designing for them. Notice on your screen in the middle of the image. One thing to note is that the town of Cutler Bay has a large boating community. So the roundabouts were designed to actually accommodate boat trailing. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. The corridor already had transit service with Miami-Dade Transit, so it included routes and stops. So transit was an important consideration to connect the community to other parts of the county. So the project included enhanced transit connections with new bus shelters, which were designed with a signature look, which we'll show you in a few slides from now. And the project provided bus bays at key locations to help improve traffic flow and minimize safety concerns from potential rear-end car accidents when a bus stops to pick up passengers. Next slide. Resiliency has been a hot topic for years. Of course, we're in South Florida. One method to improve a roadway's resiliency is with drainage improvements. The project included an enhanced drainage system with exfiltration trenches along the entire corridor. This was a closed drainage system that basically took the rainwater from the roadway surface and into the drainage inlets, and then it was pre-treated before draining into the aquifer. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. One way to encourage people to get out of their homes is by beautifying with landscaping and streetscaping. And it has an added benefit of safety and resiliency. The Caribbean Boulevard project implemented native landscaping, which did not require any irrigation. There was decorative lighting with cutoff features to keep the lights on the streets and away from the homes. And here's that nice shelter that I was just talking about. Let's take a look at before and after images of the corridor on the next few slides. Okay, so see on your screens, this roadway, this is what it was before. It's just like any other roadway in South Florida. It's boring, uncurbed, doesn't really feel like something I want to walk around in. It makes me want to get back in my car. Let's check out the after photo. Okay, so now we're talking. Bus bays, bike lanes, a signature transit stop right there, landscaping, decorative lighting. Let's look at another before picture. You're telling me I have to cross the street. All right, let's check out the after image. Isn't that nice? Landscaping and colored concrete crosswalks, which help improve visibility for the driver. So it is a safety improvement as well as beautifying the area. Moving to the next slide, you see what year this is from, 2011. This is another typical intersection. Let's look at the new roadway. All right, again, colored concrete crosswalks. This helps to emphasize the visuals for the driver, slow down vehicle speeds, and improve pedestrian safety. All right, let's check out one more. Again, nothing special, typical intersection, any neighborhood in South Florida. Let's see what it looks like now in the next slide. Bicycle lane. You have natural feature at the corner of the intersection, illuminated street signs, landscaping. This roadway has character. Okay, let's wrap this up to the last slide here. Both Old Cutler Road and Caribbean Boulevard are award-winning projects. Several awards, not just one. Here is a list of the accolades. I'll give you a moment to scan through that. Okay, I think it's time for questions.
Yes, thank you everyone. Great presentation, by the way. I really love the pictures, the before and after, really helpful. So, great. So I will be sharing some of the questions that we have, and I'll be sharing the first one, and this question is for Chris. Was narrowing travel lanes to 10 considered?
I think we did consider 10 feet, but there were some design standards that we had to maintain. But I think Sean could probably speak to it a little bit better.
Sure. I think, yeah, as Chris said, I believe we considered and we looked at different options. The debate is common between 10 and 11. I think that given the, the proximity to the bike lanes, the 10 feet becomes a little more challenging because you have a separated bike lane, off behind the curb, it's more protected. When it's on street, the 10 feet might be a little more risky for someone to veer off and be a threat to the bicycles. So I remember that being a big factor in the decision. Yes. Yeah,
and to add to that, the roadway itself, Caribbean Boulevard, it's a county roadway and it does act as a collector. So trucks, freight are allowed to use the roadway. It's not your small residential street. So because of that, 10 feet could be a little bit too narrow for trucks, delivery trucks using it.
Well, I hope that answered your question, Ricardo. And let's go with the next one. It is, what is the maintenance practice to keep up with color of pavement crossings and landscaping?
So I'll take that question. So it's an interesting question. We actually have a contractor, local vendor, Visualscape. He's our landscaper. They have been our landscaper for Cutler Road and for Caribbean for the past 7 years. And they're there full time. They always have a crew on site. We have only improving Caribbean and Old Cutler Road with trimmings and maintenance of the landscaping, but they also Old Cutler Road does have a segment that has sprinklers. So they have a sprinkler technician that gives service to the sprinkler system. In regards to the color concrete, we also have another a town vendor, SFM, that on occasion does come out and pressure wash the entire corridor for us. We have them budgeted at least 4 times per year as we need it. And basically, I hope that answers your question.
Wow, great answer. So I have a question to finalize. Okay, we have 2 questions. Okay, first of all, what is the biggest challenge in design and construction of any of the projects that you presented? Maybe if you can share some lessons learned.
I'll share one with design, and it's something that Chris alluded to, and I remember, we talked about it at length, and it was the curbing. And actually, similar discussion happened with Old Cutler, but especially in Caribbean, when they're used to having a road that hasn't been curbed and it's worked for residents forever, and they're used to parking where they need to park. Trying to put a curb, was met with some resistance. And I think it was about educating them with the benefits, like Chris talked about. People think curb, oh, that's going to restrict where I can park, but there's so much more to that. It's the stormwater management, it's the safety component, it's keeping a clean edge of the roadway. So it was one of those things that once you brought forth the benefits, you explained it in more than just referencing an engineering code, but the real life application. It's hard to make everybody happy, but I think as they understood it and once it was implemented, they actually came to appreciate it and like it. And even when the GAP 1 and GAP 2 project came, we didn't get the same questions we had because they could look down the street and see the benefits. So I hope that's from the design standpoint. I don't know if you guys, if Alfredo, if you have any other thoughts during construction.
Sure. For construction, I would just like to add that for Old Cutler Road, being that it's an actual business corridor, 1.25 mile business corridor from 87th to 97th Avenue. The biggest challenge was actually building that road while maintaining all the shopping centers open. I think it proved very beneficial that we had a full-time public information officer on hand. We rented one of the retail spaces in the main shopping center of Old Cutler Town Center. And this PIO was available at all times for all shop owners, all residents that had any types of issues. Also, minimizing detours as much as possible was another challenge that we accomplished. We were actually able to create an additional paved lane so that we could create half the road in one portion from 97th to 87th. And then we were able to create the other half from 87th to 97th. And in that segment from 87th to 97th is where we had some detours off site, but at least we always had one lane at all times open throughout the entire project. And each shopping center had a driveway to give access to shoppers and so that businesses could continue serving the public.
Oh, it seems all measures were taken into account. I have another question here. Were there any land use regulations considered when for street improvements in any of these projects?
Well, for Old Cutler Road, there really wasn't any land use regulations. However, we did for the two bookend roundabouts, one on 87th, one on 97th. There was some right-of-way acquisition that we had to accommodate. Luckily, these two bookend roundabouts, the lots adjacent to them were actually not developed. So it wasn't very difficult to do that right-of-way acquisition. We didn't have any pushback from the property owners, and we were able to accomplish that without a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I would add to that, if I may, that anytime we're planning and designing a roadway, always the land use, the context classification is really kind of what sets the stage for the design improvements, or what design features are to be implemented. So Caribbean Boulevard, of course, you have it's a large residential community, a lot of single family homes, a lot of driveways. And we wanted to make that, since they already had pretty low vehicle speeds, we wanted to enhance that with bicycle lanes, sidewalks, landscaping. So that's it for me.
Oh, great. So I think there is an interest of knowing about maximizing sidewalk pedestrian, the sidewalk for pedestrians. I don't know if you have any comment about any of the projects that you presented today, if the priority was to provide, better sidewalks for pedestrians, and what were some of the strategies?
Yeah, definitely sidewalks were critical. In Caribbean Boulevard, they were existing, except for the most part, they were existing. There were some connections missing. There were some ADA ramps missing. And there was one segment towards the north end of Caribbean that had no sidewalk at all. That one did, when we talk about design challenges or even construction challenges, that proved to be a challenge, because similar to the curbs, if someone's used to not having a sidewalk in the front, they kind of see that as their property. There's trees there, there's a nice driveway there. So it was a priority to make sure we had a continuous corridor of sidewalks. With Old Cutler, Old Cutler was more challenging in the sense that there was right-of-way available, but to try to harmonize and make everything work, especially the 10-foot shared use path on the south side, was cutting through the businesses and some busy shopping centers. There were a lot of other considerations to make. So we knew that we could fit it. We knew that the shared use path would go on the south side to line up with the path that continues north, really all the way into Coconut Grove. But it was a matter of how to make it and mesh with the area. The 6-foot sidewalk worked out fine on the north side. We were able to put that effectively. Yeah, that's kind of what I recall. I hope that kind of helps with the answer.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I would just like to add that we were able to make sure that all sidewalks and crosswalks and ramps were fully ADA compliant. We were able to implement push buttons that are ADA compliant, that a person in a wheelchair could easily access. We also, on Old Cutler Road, implemented some crosswalks mid-path that weren't there before, with some rapid flashing beacons that you actually push a button and it actually talks back to you, and the lights flash, and it lets commuters know that somebody's about to cross, and it's safer for people, you know, that are blind or incapacitated in some way. So yes, we were able to make all the corridors not only complete the final gaps of sidewalk, but we were able to make them fully ADA compliant.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your answers. And we are close to the end. I want to give you some reminders. We have the People's Choice Award, so please vote for your favorite project. And also, thank you everyone for participating in this session. If you have more questions, you know you can reach out to the different speakers. Also, there is a link in the chat box for you to evaluate this awesome session and all the previous sessions that were conducted today. And last but not least, we have a networking opportunity at 4:30. So please join us and the WTS agency, Women's for Transportation, to a quick and fun trivia activity at 4:30. So thank you, and hope you enjoyed this day, and hopefully we will connect tomorrow to have a great conference. So
Stephanie, one more shameless plug. We actually have a project in that Choice Award, Southwest 211th Street. We have some protected bike lanes that we teamed up with the county and signed a covenant to maintain them on Southwest 211th Street in front of Southgate Government Center and our performing arts. So if you like our presentation, please choose project number 8, Southwest 211th Street, protected bicycle lanes. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day, guys.